Hi, good afternoon. Salam sejahtera, and welcome to this webinar. This webinar is about sharing session sports, engineering and technologies in sports. I am your host today. I'm Chong. You guys can call me Chong. I'm from USM, currently fourth year, studying for electronic engineering. So before we start our event, because this event is supported by IEEE Malaysia section, so I would like to give a little bit of introduction for IEEE membership engagement. All right, you guys can see my screen, right? So as you guys know, this event is supported by IEEE Malaysia section. So if you're interested to become a member of IEEE, there are a few benefits here. So basically, IEEE student membership, we can gain benefits by joining our event, IEEE event, in terms of volunteering, professional networking, knowledge and continued education, communication and fun, and there are some scholarship and awards that ready for you to apply. On top of that, by joining IEEE membership, you are able to access IEEE Collaborate Tech, which is a professional networking platform. All right. So another advantage of joining IEEE is when you join as international member, IEEE student membership, so you can able to access Google Apps at IEEE, where you guys will have an email with IEEE domain. And the Google Drive will be around 30 GB, which is half 15 GB more than user-free account. All right, another benefit will be you can able to access IEEE Digital Library Explorer, which inside this library there will have over 5 million documents from IEEE and IEEE journals, magazine, letters, conference proceedings, and active IEEE standards, which may be very helpful when you proceed with your FYP or thesis. All right. On top of that, there will have you can receive IEEE magazine and IEEE TV, which there will have many TV series for education, and IEEE e-learning platform. All right, and there are many more opportunity out there for you to apply for it. So if you're interested to join IEEE membership, this currently is the best opportunity for you to join IEEE membership, because IEEE membership begins with the September of every year. So currently we are in November here. So when you join IEEE, you will get the membership for 2021 and the year 2022, which means that when you join now, then you will get the membership for 2 years. All right. And for 2021 until the year 2023, when you join IEEE membership, by entering the code future50, you can get a 50% discount on student membership. All right, that's all from a small sharing from me. So if you guys are interested to join IEEE membership, you guys can contact Nick or Izani for UTM student, and for USM student, if you guys are interested, you can contact me. The contact I will list in the comment section there. All right. Next, please allow me to speak in Malay in DM. All right. Alright, selamat sejahtera. Selamat datang ke webinar ini. Alright, so dengan ini saya ingin menjemput yang berusaha Dr. Hadafi dan Dr. Muhammad Najib untuk sharing mereka. Doktor, mempersilakan.
Okay, thank you for the invitation. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Hadafi and my colleague, Dr. Najib. So basically, we are from School of Biomedical Engineering and Health Sciences under Fakulti Engineering, Universiti Teknologi Malaysia. So Dr. Najib expertise is biomedical engineer and I'm under sports science. So before we start our sports technology product, I would like to give some information what we have do in UTM. So let me open my slide first. Okay. Okay, nampak slide view ke ataupun macam mana? Dr. Najib, dia dalam slide view ke atau apa?
Sekarang slide view, okay.
Oh, okay, baik. Alhamdulillah. Okay, selamat petang semua. Jadi ini adalah slide yang telah kami sediakan khas untuk webinar IEEE. So, topik yang telah diberikan berkenaan dengan Sports Engineering and Technologies in Sports, especially apa yang telah kami buat di Universiti Teknologi Malaysia. So, for the first part, I will present first, then Dr. Najib will be continue. So, okay. Ini adalah kajian-kajian ataupun projek-projek yang telah kami lakukan. Jadi ini berkenaan dengan fitness test untuk Akademi JDT. So kami telah memilih 5 jenis ujian kecergasan untuk diuji kepada Akademi JDT. Dan ini antara projek yang terbesar yang telah kami dapat, di mana Badminton Asia Federation, ni bukan Badminton Malaysia ya, ni Badminton Asia, dia Federation telah menghubungi kami, itu adalah gambar Dr. Najib, telah menghubungi kami untuk melakukan digital partnership, di mana Dr. Najib telah membantu develop apps dan apps teknologi untuk memudahkan latihan kepada atlet-atlet badminton dan jurulatih-jurulatih badminton di seluruh Asia. Dan ini juga antara selain daripada sukan-sukan sedia ada, kami juga terlibat dalam kajian sukan yang melibatkan martial art. Ini adalah contoh di mana kami membantu bekas pelajar sains sukan UTM, iaitu atlet judo Malaysia. Setelah tamat belajar, beliau mengambil keputusan untuk menyertai MMA, Mixed Martial Art, dan beliau telah datang ke UTM untuk bersama-sama kami untuk membantu beliau supaya agar menang di dalam pertandingan tersebut. Dan selain daripada itu, ini juga adalah previous project di mana kami telah bekerjasama dengan Persatuan Nerve Malaysia, di mana kami ingin wujudkan modul Nerve Malaysia di setiap sekolah. Jadi pelajar-pelajar di setiap sekolah boleh melakukan permainan ini, di mana kita tahu latihan menembak ataupun latihan memanah ataupun seperti dart boleh membantu meningkatkan fokus, attention and concentration. So ini juga adalah sebelum PKP pada tahun 2019 kami telah bekerjasama dengan Kementerian Belia dan Sukan Negeri Johor melakukan aktiviti Bulan Sukan Negara di UTM. Antara pertandingan yang kami buat seperti pertandingan aerobik, pertandingan strongman dan pelbagai lagi. So saya ingin paparkan sedikit contoh kajian yang telah kami buat dan event yang telah kami buat di Sekolah Sukan Malaysia. Okey, itu adalah kajian kami buat di Sekolah Sukan Malaysia. Okey, dan ini adalah biodata saya. Saya terlibat dalam aktiviti-aktiviti seperti sports therapy and rehabilitation, sports biomechanics and performance analysis, dan yang terakhir berkenaan dengan sports innovation and technology. Jadi seterusnya kami ingin membentangkan sports technology produk yang kami bangunkan di UTM. Dengan ini saya serahkan kepada Dr. Najib untuk present our Big 5 product.
Baik, terima kasih Dr. Hadafi. So Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera everyone in all students from USM, UTM, moderator Mr. Chong, and especially TS Dr. Hadafi, Hadafi Fitri, for sudi menerima join sama-sama saya untuk bersama dalam program IEEE ini right. So before I proceed to explain about the 5 big projects that we have done or are in progress, right, regarding to sports and engineering and technology, right. Let me introduce myself, right. I am TS Dr. Muhammad Najib bin Jamaluddin, right. So I did my degree in electrical electronics engineering in UTM, right. And then for my for my masters, I continue to do masters in electrical engineering. And then for my PhD, I did PhD in biomedical engineering lah, right. So basically, my background is the basics in electronics lah, electronics, right? But what I observe is that we have many electronic students, right? So it is very competitive if you want to go, if you want to success in the market of electronics industry, like let's say for example Intel or let's say ST Microelectronics. So even though there are many opportunities, but still the competition is high. So that's why I start to observe is that when we do electronics, right? So it's not limited only to the industries lah, the kilang-kilang manufacturers like that. So we have many other opportunities, and among the opportunities is in biomedical engineering. So those of you doing electronics, so actually there is a high opportunity for you to pursue your career in biomedical engineering, right? And then actually during my years of my degree, I have been approached by my retired mentor, Professor Dr. Hafiz, to do some system sensors for his sports technology. So Professor Dr. Hafiz is also a mentor of DS Dr. Hadafi, right? So at that time was purely sports science. At that time, it was purely sports science, and then it is the initiative of Professor Hafiz, right, for him as a sports science researcher to venture into sports technology. So that is where we met, and I start when I did my master's and PhD. So along the way, I also helped him to develop you call it sports technology devices lah, sports equipment, sports systems, right? So until just recently, we keep on continuing to contribute to the ideas of sports technology, right? So just to share with you, I'm also a member of IEEE, right? And I specifically am a member of EMBS, IEEE EMBS. EMBS is Engineering in Medicine and Biology Society, right? So when I register for IEEE, what I get is other than networking, I get networking with professors, postgraduate students, researchers from other universities like UPM, UM, all right, USM. So other than that, there is also opportunities for us members of IEEE to join programs organized by IEEE specific societies, right? So like myself, sometimes I also join activities organized by IEEE EMBS Malaysia chapter. So just to share, just recently, because when I subscribe for IEEE, I just add another extra fee for IEEE transactions. So let me share. I just got this yesterday, right? So IEEE transactions, dia punya kamera kan? Okay. IEEE transactions, biomedical circuits and system. So from when I read the transactions or journals from IEEE, right? So that is where I will get basic ideas. Recent research ideas on or we call it the trending research that the entire world is doing, is focusing. So we make sure that when we do our research, we do our project, it is not a backdated project, right? So when I became a IEEE member, so I'm always updated with the latest research, right, related to the topics lah. Okay. Slide Dr. Hadafi ada buka balik.
Okey, sekejap saya buka balik. Okay.
Okay, good. So among the projects that we have done together with myself, with Dr. Hadafi, right, and with our previous mentor, Professor Hafiz, is the one that Dr. Hadafi has explained earlier, right? So before we venture into sports engineering and sports technology, right? It is also important for us to understand what does the call it the society or the people of sports science, what do they want, right? What do they lacking, right? So we can have let's say you can look at YouTube advertisements, sports advancements in other countries. They have advanced sports facilities, right? So you can say that, oh, we want that, or we want this machine, or we want this equipment, but it would be usually very you call it costly, very expensive for you to buy them, right? So even if you buy them exclusively, right? So it would be very exclusive lah, call it, where only certain athlete or certain coach can use it, right? Only elite coaches or elite athletes can use those systems with permissions, with unless we have proven that that the athlete has a high potential to win in Olympics. Only then you can use that exclusive facility, right? But the challenge doesn't end there. The challenge does not end there, right? There is always innovations that we can do to support our growing talents of athletes, or growing talents of coaches. So among that you are seeing here in this slide is TensorFlow software, whereby this is the project done by or supervised by Dr. Hadafi with postgraduate students, masters, right? So in this software, in this framework, so the researcher wants the computer to identify the pattern of running, right? So this is one software that will help or will aid coaches to identify videos of his coaches or his athletes, right? So by having a machine learning software, something like this, all right, those we call it, the coaches can get or can empirically measure his achievement of his athletes. So let me share with you before I go further on this machine learning software, just to understand this scenario of coaching for athletes. Mostly coaches would, the current coaches would, they would bring their athletes to the field, all right, organize some activities, and then he would give some instructions, right, how to start the activity, how to end the activity, and then he will note down lah. He will note down. So let's say in one of those activities, he would want to see the pattern of running, right? The gait pattern of running, for example, or the speed of running, right? Or within that, let's say for example, 100 or 400 meters of pursuit sprint. So how does the athlete sprint, right? Or he would want to also compare between this athlete and the other athlete. Maybe he want to choose some athletes to go for some competition, right? So basically, the coaches would use his experience. Right? So this means that he, as an experienced coach, he knows how by looking at someone's leg, for example, or by looking at how someone walk or how someone runs, he would successfully identify that, okay, this individual has the potential to be a a top sprint runner in Malaysia, for example, right? So the coach that we are doing, Dr. Hadafi, coach apa?
Coach Fuad.
Coach Fuad.
Yes.
So this project we did with Coach Fuad in right? Who is the Coach Fuad is the coach for siapa? Hafiz Jantan ya?
Yeah, true. Khairul Hafiz Jantan and Badru Manap.
Right, the top sprint runner in Malaysia just recently, Dr. Dafi,
Yes.
betul tak?
Yes, the fastest man in Malaysia.
Okay. So here he is the coach. He has the experience to see, right? So how do we in this manner? How do we as engineers or technologists approach the coaches of sport scientists to engage with them, right? So because these coaches or sports scientists, they have experience, or there's another term they call it the coach eye, the coach eye or the third eye, for example. He has a third eye just by sensing, looking, right, listening how someone talks, observing what the athlete is carrying. He can understand, okay, this athlete is having some maybe some emotional problem at that moment, maybe before the competition, for example. He can know, right? Even those badminton coaches can read, you call it, can read those athletes, right? So by so these coaches one day they will retire, for example. So what we want to do is by transferring the expertise of coach, all right, to some expert machine learning software, so that this software can learn from the coach, right? Learn from the expert, right? So it is always that when we listen about machine learning, we are talking about, machine learning can learn from data, things like that. But seldom people would say, right, machine learning needs to learn from data that has been verified by expert. This is what some you might not be always be listening to this phrase. So we always have known that machine learning, all right, can learn from lots of data, right? Artificial intelligence, neural network, things like that. But okay, machine learning, a good machine learning software, right, or machine learning model or AI model will develop a good model by learning from data verified by expert, right? So here, right, we can have data such as the running gait, in this case, sprinting and walking, right? So what we did is from the images of the running athlete, so we segment, right? We segment these images into frames, and then we give these frames to expert or coaches. Okay, and we ask them, okay, is this guy is he running or is it walking, right? So after that, okay, these categories of sprinting and walking is going to be trained into the machine learning software. Specifically in this project is TensorFlow. We use TensorFlow, right? And in this case, we will see that in the left column, third image, you can see those signals going up and down. So that is the signals of the width of the span of legs, right? Width of the span of legs of the athlete running, sprinting, or walking. All right, and then with these signals, so these signals will be classified with verification from the coach, and then we will train the TensorFlow training model. Then eventually, the training model can identify new data, right? New image or video of athletes running, right? So again, why would we need this software? Is that by having this software, it would help the coach, right? For example lah, right? Maybe the coach can, let's say he can memorize because it is his athletes, for example, right? It is his coaches, all right? Right? But what if the coach have more, you call it, in-depth data, right, of his coaches, right? With the machine learning software being able to provide empirical parameters, extra parameters, so that we can add value to his coaching, right? And that's why this would also be a good you call it contribution to the sports technology and engineering, right? So I would say that this would be both sports engineering and technology lah, right? So the technology would be the camera, the speed of the camera, the camera of the high speed camera, the high speed camera, which is have the ability to grab high frame rates, right? This is not with this camera, it is not the normal frame rates of 30 frames per second, but it is higher than that. Maybe should be around 120 frames per second. So there's technologies that we apply. And then in terms of engineering, it would be the how we derive new parameters. For example, the parameters of the leg span, given the image of the running, sprinting or walking, right? So, okay, next slide, Dr. Rafi. Right. So now we are looking at Kinevia software. So Kinevia software, we would say, is a readily available software that sport scientists can use. Right. So basically, I would say that this would be the PhD project of Dr. Hadafi. So in his PhD, even though Dr. Hadafi, he graduates his degree in sports science, right? But TS Dr. Hadafi is also a technologist. So we seldom find sports scientist graduates who is also a technologist. So this is very, very unique and very advanced, I would say. Right. So in his PhD, he developed a device, right, a novelty device to have intervention with the stability of athletes, and so he devised that machine. So this device is you call it is an innovative device, because previously there is some device something like this, but it is totally you call it the wobble board, Dr. Rafi,
Yes, true.
So how does the wobble board look like or function?
So basically we try to copy the wobble board movement from right to left, front to back, and we also can use wobble board for balance training and balance testing. So what we do, we develop a device and we try to copy a wobble board movement, and then we use electromyography, EMG. We put in the lead, and we try to do a comparison which is better for muscle activation. And the interesting part, what we found that electromyography activation is more better when we use the new device, because from my study, I found that if the exercise is too hard, is also not good, because the muscle will not active. So better we give what we call it sederhana, is a medium type of exercise. If the exercise is too hard, it will not improve a muscle activation in the body. So that's why and when we do this, we also use a Kinevia software to analysis the effectiveness of the movement. We not only develop a new device, then we also use a Kinovia software to validate the effectiveness of the device. That's all, Dr. Najib.
Okay, good. Thank you, Dr. Hadafi. So, like Dr. Hadafi said, so the WoboBot is a small platform, all right, around the, let's say, I would say around the diameter of the WoboBot would be around, I think, less than 1 meter, kan? With a rounded bottom, It is a rounded bottom. So a WoboBot is, you can find those WoboBot in gyms, for example, or in some specific sports science training center, right? So someone will stand on the WoboBot, and try to balance himself or herself on the WoboBot, right? But the WoboBot is the control of balance is totally come from, you know, the subject himself, subject himself. So it's not controllable. But Dr. Hadafi has devised this technology whereby his platform will also create imbalance, right? But at the same time, his device is programmable. So this for you electronic guys, so this would be familiar with you, right? So a balancing platform which is programmable, all right, and you can program it to have a small imbalance, all right, like Dr. Hadafi said, or you can make it to have a medium imbalance state, or to make it have a higher imbalance state. So which means that Dr. Hadafi's device is able to, you know, have a control imbalance state. Control means you can set, right? So you can program that, you can set that, and you can also assessment. You can do assessment, right? So among the assessment done by Dr. Hadafi during his PhD is by using the Kinevia software, right? So with the Kinevia software, what you can do is you can actually draw lines, right? So you first of all you need to have cameras, right? Kan Dr. Hadafi, kan? You need to have cameras at the side and then at the front. At the back, do you need cameras?
No need, just side and front.
Side and front, right? And then when you capture those images, right, from right and the front, and then with the Kinevia software, you load those images and videos, and then from there you will start marking, Dr. Hadafi, mark the
grade line. We use a grade line. Yeah, grading line.
Put a grading line, right, on certain spots that you want to measure. Right, let's say you want to measure the motion of the knee, right, the knee, right, the angles of the knee, right. So in sports science, among the things that you want to measure is angles. Biomechanics, I would say, in biomechanics, so you want to measure angles, and then you would want to measure the range of motion. It's also angles, how wide what is the smallest angle, what is the largest angle that you're going to measure. So that would reflect the state, the performance of the athlete, right, or the individual or subjects, right. And by putting the subject in an imbalanced state, right, we can measure how the athlete is being able to balance himself during activities of sport. So how is it how is balance very important in the activity of sports, Dr. Hadafi?
Okay, as we know from our research, we found that the most common sports injury was ankle sprain. So how we found that that data? So we do observation and document analysis. We go to the Institut Sukan Negara and Sekolah Sukan Malaysia, and we take clinical files. And from the clinical file, we found that ankle sprain is the most common sports injury happen in Malaysia. The interesting part, why this injury happen, that is related with the balance training. So that's why we need to give a balance training or stability training to athlete, because the most common sport injury is ankle sprain. So Wobobot, we not only do after injury. Wobobot, we also need a do exercise before injury. We need to do exercise that to give a good balance and good stability for our athlete. So that's why need a balanced training using a Wobobot. And what we do, we develop a new device that we can control the type of heart, like the example medium, hard, and yang senang lah, daripada senang ke susah. So it will help the athlete. So this is I think I found that the most problem in our country, that is people or athlete always do exercise after they get injury. They did not know that that type of exercise is help them to prevent from the injuries. So we need to spread the awareness to all coaches and to all sports in Malaysia. The important part is the prevention of the injuries, not after injuries. Okay, Dr. Najib.
Okay, good. So now you guys can see, so when we are talking about sports, it's not only about sports performance, right? It's also sports performance also involve the topics about injury. So injury, we have injury rehabilitation, so you recover from injury, and then we also have an aspect of injury prevention, right, where you can prevent injury. So we as engineers so always think how we can how we can facilitate, right, to provide simple tools. You don't need to think about bombastic systems or expensive systems. You can use so you can see here, so we are only using Kinevia software, right, which will we can do markings, and this technology will help to do assessment, right, and then sports scientists will advise athletes what you can do or what you cannot do, right, especially for those who are we know that maybe most probably someone is born talented to be talent in sports, betul right?
Yeah.
But there is also other possibilities that one can be trained, betul tak? One can be trained to develop in sports. So if let's say someone is new in sports, right? So you don't straight away run for the high speed, right? So you gradually, right? So look at your current ability, and then see at what stage that you can set a near target, right, not so far, not so fast, for example, and then you try to reach that target first. So again, by how you realize this, so it's by engineers providing tools, simple tools, providing sensors. Later we look at some sensors that you can utilize to give ideas to coaches, to sports scientists, how to assess, help them assess, right? So when we do sports technology or sports engineering, so engineers are not the superstar. So we are not the superstar, but we will eat, right? Sports scientists, coaches, those are the ones with the big roles to push athlete towards the championship, right? Betul Rafi kan?
Yes,
right.
correct.
So we engineers, we support. So how do we provide tools to sports scientists? How do we provide tools to coaches to help them to record, to get all those data in, and then enable them to analyze. Okay. At the lower left of the slide, we can see some images of horses. Horses. So Dr. Hadafi also applied the Kinevia software for the analysis of horses, equine, right? So by using this Kinevere software, actually you have many possibilities to do to study motions in sports, right?
Yes.
So any sports, betul tak? Many
Yes, yes.
sports.
And also the important part is to prevent them from fall injuries from the
All
horses.
injuries, right?
Yes.
So you can look here. There are many kinds of sports. So which means that apa tahu maknanya di sini kan? Maknanya tak ada isu nak merebut-rebut pun. Jadi you can go for tennis. Someone else can go for hockey. Someone else can go for badminton. Someone else can go for so many sports, rugby, sebagainya kan. So many sports. So so other like I said earlier, so other than being an electronic engineer in kilang-kilang, in factories, in manufacturing, where the competition is quite high. So this is new opportunities for you. When you grad, you can create your startup companies to invent innovative devices, right? For you to go into many different sports in Malaysia. Berbagai. So the call it the limit is the skies. Banyak sangat lah. Right, so maybe next slide, Dr. Hanafi. Alright, okay, this is going a little bit more on electronics. So this slide would describe on accelerometers lah. Right, so first of all, in sports, we call it among the main activities in sports is motion lah. Kan? Mana ada sports tak gerak? Ada tak? Sports tak gerak? Ada juga ke?
Mesti bergerak.
Mesti bergerak. Right? They have some level of ni. Even if you maybe there is some sports that is quite light. Let's say maybe hockey pun tak banyak hockey. Golf let's say for example mungkin nampak tak banyak pergerakan, there is not much movement, right? But for you to train to be call it to be professional in golf, for example, golf. I'm talking about golf, sorry, not hockey. Golf, to be professional trained in golf, you need to do some other trainings, right? So you need to do some jogging. You need to regulate your heart rate. In terms of psychology, you need to train how to become, train to be how to become, right? Things like that lah. Right. So anything apapun, the main element of sports is motion. Motion. So we can see here accelerometer lah, accelerometer. So some of you might have known about accelerometers. Some might be new about accelerometers. So accelerometer is actually a chip or sensor device. All right. Usually, call it the most common technology for accelerometer is MEMS lah, MEMS, micro electromechanical sensors, MEMS, MEMS. So it is actually it's actually an IC. You can see those black chips, those red ports on the left, right? You can see those black chips, very tiny, very tiny. All right. So in that chips, actually you can go through, you can look at maybe Instagram or TikTok. They have those guys who open up these chips, Then in those chips, you can see very tiny electromechanical device. Those devices can actually, move in one direction. So embedded inside this device, those tiny mechanical structures can move in 3 axes, which is x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. Right. So you can see here in this one the left block. You can see those arrows. Sorry, 1 minute. Okay. So you have the x-axis x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. So z-axis is usually for you to measure gravity lah, right? Which is the movement towards gravity. So anything that you move down is gravity lah. So our motion, your arm, your legs, so your arm, your lower arm, your upper limb or upper arm, alright. So you can move, and your arm will create angles, right? And then how to apply these sensors and the accelerometer is by you applying one sensor to one limb, for example, on the lower arm, and then one on the upper arm, right? And then by moving your arm, right, you can get measurements from the accelerometer. Then you can we will do the calculation like the for example using the Kalman filter algorithm for you to measure the angles between two accelerometers, right? So this is one way other than the Kinevia software, whereby you might not need cameras to actually measure the angles of your limbs, for example, right? Or your knees or your leg or your elbows, things like that, right? But there will be some limitations lah, right? You will need to put these sensors on the arms of the athlete or subjects lah, right? So let's say for example, we can do experiments of sports science in labs, right? We can also do sports science experiments in the field, kan? And Dr. Hanafi, macam kalau kat field sebenarnya atlet rasa selesa tak kalau dia pakai alat di badan dia? What do you think, Dr. Hanafi?
I think for the training part it will be no problem. They will be happy because they know the numbers, so it will help their to improve their performance.
Okay, so for training it is good lah. It is quite acceptable lah. But we also need to be aware about there is regulations about putting sensors during real competitions, Dr. Hanafi, kan?
Yes.
So these devices or this software, it is good for training, right? So you want to see how your training progress towards over time, over the months before specific events like Olympics, things like that. Okay, so accelerometer you can usually you see accelerometer or gyroscope in drones lah, for example, drones. But here it is used exclusively in you can wear those accelerometers, and you can actually measure gaits, also gaits, how you walk, how you run, right? But like I said just now, you need to wear these accelerometers or sensors. So imagine if you have this board, right? So imagine, okay, where are you going to put the battery? Right? As engineers, so we're talking about as electronic engineers. So you want to think where you want to put the battery. How big is the battery? So when you put the battery on the limb, right? So when the subject or sports sprint very fast, will that sensor slip off, right? So this is what I would like to share with you lah. This is a very valuable experience that I want to share with you. Is that, let's say for example, so because I did my master's and PhD in biomedical engineering, so I did machines like ECG machines, electrocardiogram machines, which measure your heart rate. So those machines in hospitals, they measure your ECG and they are able to measure your heart rate, right? During when the subject is resting, right? When the patient is lying in bed, so you will get a good signal, right? But when the patient is running, is moving, is coughing, right? You will get a distorted signal. So when your signal is distorted, right, you cannot measure parameters, important parameters of health of the heart with distorted parameters. So in sports, I would say that it is always challenging. It is always possible, but for you to get a stable signal, for you to process process so that you can get a clean signal, so that you can get a proper or accurate parameter or measurement, right? It will be challenging for sports, because sports you want to measure during when someone is moving, all right? Like your, it is like your smart band, wristwatch, smart wristwatch. So when you wear that on your hand, all right, when you're just laying down is okay. But sometimes when you start running, you want to measure while you are running, it might not be that accurate. So you can see those signals on those pictures. So any motions. So from accelerometers, accelerometers, you will get three signals from this sensor. So X, Y, and Z. So depending on the direction of your movement, all right, or you call it the sum vector lah, sum vector. So if you want to get a sum vector, you would combine all together these measurements at certain motion. So for you to produce a new signal, which will say that in which direction your hand is moving, for example, things like that, right? So for accelerometers, there would not be a specific signal, right? Like your heart signal. So it is just like swing signal, up and downs, right? But you can see in between those ups and downs, there will be some noises lah. So basically, you will apply digital filters, right? Or you can apply further Kalman filters to smooth out the signal, and then proceed with your parameter measurement. But you need to be aware, right, when you apply digital filters, right, so as you would not apply too much filter that it will distort your original signal. So when you have distorted your original signal, right, so filter will remove those frequencies, right? But removing too much of the frequencies, right, you will distort your original signal of interest. Then you would not have an accurate analysis, right? So this is one good sensor that is very relevant, relevant for you to apply this sensor in sports engineering. So for you to devise something in sports technology, right? Okay, Dr. Hadafi, next slide. Okay, Dr. Hadafi. So this is on the topic of force mapping. So recently, what the device that we did was what, Dr. Hadafi? Using the force.
Okay, so basically, we also have met Coach Fuad. For your information, Coach Fuad is one of the famous coach for 100 meter and 200 meter in Malaysia. So we meet Coach Fuad and discuss with Coach Fuad what we can help them to improve our national runners. So one of the opportunity is from the starting block, so we can get the correct method for the runner to start, and we also can get a valid timing when the runner start to run. So we also presented this to Coach Fuad, and hopefully from this device will help Coach Fuad easily to measure and to analyze and to improve our national runner performance. Okay, Dr. Najib.
Okay. So yes, we have started this research on starting blocks. So we are still ongoing, right? So basically the starting block that Dr. Hadafi started is actually, you try to imagine on the field, on the track, on the running track, the athlete would be bending down, right? Would be kneeling down on the track. So on his leg, right, the shoe, he will be stepping some block. So that is called the starting block, right? So basically, we would see that it's just a starting block. It's for, you know, you place your both of your feet or shoes on the starting block, right? One maybe a little bit in front of the other. One in front of the other.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
The two leg will be on the starting block.
Right. So and then when those runners or athletes hears to the sound of gunshot,
Yes,
bang,
gunshot.
and then they will push the starting block, and then he will start running. So the position of the athlete, kneeling down, kneeling down,
Yes,
and his
yes.
legs is ready to shuttle off,
Yes.
ready untuk shoot off, right? So that is a good position. Starting block is a good position. But usually what we did not see actually, right, is that those starting blocks that is usually used in competitions. So those starting blocks has actually sensors on them, right? So we have visited one
Coach
event.
Fuad. Yes.
Coach Fuad. So we have visited them. So those sensors has actually those starting blocks, those platforms has sensors on it, and it's basically those sensors is used to validate if you call it if the one of the athlete has started running before the gunshot. Kan betul tak tadi ya? Ini
Yes.
The basic use of starting block. So other than providing a platform, right, the starting block together with an electronic gun, right, is so there's a computer at the site whereby they would monitor, right, there should be no push of leg on the starting block before the gunshot, right? So this is the basic use of starting block with sensors. Okay. However, we have met with Coach Fuad. So because we understand about the feet, So in sports science, the feet is also important. Dr. Dafi,
Yes, the measurement of the feet or
feet.
hand.
So when you run,
Yes.
do you run on your would an athlete run on the tumit apa panggil? Tumit dia akan lari atas tumit ke dia akan lari dekat ujung jari
Yes.
kaki tu?
Yes. There will be a different for every person. So we need to find the best method for the type of feet.
Jadi the method of running also, the method of running, how you run. Do you run on your tumit? Right? Tumit, you not sure of the English term. So or on you run on your toes, for example. So different method of running would be have different effect on different persons lah, right? So which means that what we need on the starting block, other than just a sensor to detect force start, right? So it's also good to have force mapping. The force mapping of the feet, of the entire feet during before sprinting, during launching. So by observing how the athlete leaves his starting block, so coaches can get information lah, right, on the pattern of launching during the sprints, right? Actually, other than that, let's say for example lah, if maybe a day before that, right, the runner faces some injury, for example lah kan, face injury, terlanggar basikal ke, terlanggar kayu ke, but maybe the athlete doesn't want to tell the coach, for example, dia takut kena buang kan, betul tak?
Yes.
Betul tak? Kalau dia injured, dia takut kena buang kan, disqualified kan. So dia sembunyi, dia ada possibility athlete nak sembunyi kan, dia punya kecederaan. But with this starting block, because dia dah cedera kan, so his pattern of feet mapping tu dia akan berbeza daripada biasa. it will be different from normal, right? So
Yes.
this will give information to the coach, as so the coach can give attention to him. Like, okay, something wrong with your leg lah. Why different this time kan? Why macam tu lah. Then the coach can take proper actions to so that so athlete might think that okay, I still want to competition kan, tapi when he go further he might hurt even further. Betul tak Taufik
Yes.
So,
Correct.
so once hurt, what happen Taufik? Once athlete hurt, can he recover, become the same champion again? Taufik?
It depends. It depends. Depends on the athlete, how what the how their determination, their passion, it will be different from everybody.
So that's an element of psychology lah, betul tak Taufik?
Yes.
That's what we will look after this.
Yes.
So we have physical rehab, we have physical treatment of injuries. So this is how engineers can provide informations. We provide informations to athletes, but we are not the athletes lah. We provide supports to sports scientists, to coaches, things like that. So if you can see the image with the hand, you see the image with the hand with some red color mapping, right? So that image is the project that I did with my student, right? Final year student, fourth year student, to do the force mapping of the leg. So what we did is we devised our own force mapping sensor. Because why? Because the available force mapping sensor is too of course the cost would be very high, but that would not be the main issue. Okay, we did the sensor, the force mapping sensor on our own, because we want to fit that force sensor into the shape of the starting block. We want to customize it. So if we buy ready-made force mapping sensors, right? So usually they have some other shapes lah, right? Which does not the fit according to the devices that we are going to innovate with lah. So it is also good. So if you have those journals from IEEE, transaction from IEEE, right? So we can get many information from here also. As members, you can get information from here, right? So we have in these journals we can see many techniques applied by researchers worldwide. How to get the how to develop these force plate sensors to become arrays, how to plot them, how to make it more accurate, things like that lah. How to calibrate them, things like that. Okay, so this is on force mapping lah. So force mapping, you will have many other applications other than starting block. Like you want to see how someone jump, how someone jump, how someone walk, right? Yes. So when you're walking, it's not about the gates of your walking, your knee, for example, or your pinggang. It's also about your foot. Your foot.
It also good for shooting athlete or archery athlete, how they balance their body. So the
balance
so can give a good data.
So if they have not a good balance, the force mapping will give a different, call it a different heat mapping. Tabel lah.
Right.
Okay. Then we can go to the next slide.
Okay. So I play the video first.
All right.
Okay.
Sistem ini adalah sebuah sistem yang dinamakan sebagai 3D CAD, iaitu 3D Computer Aided Development System. Di mana tujuan 3D CAD ini adalah untuk membolehkan
Okay, Dr. Najib.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nafi. Right.
Okay.
So this is another you can call it another big project lah, big project that we commit to develop for the application of sports. So which is the in short we call it a virtual reality lah, as a the term that is very popular right now, right? You guys should be familiar with the term fourth industrial revolution, 4IR, right? Or IR 4.0, right? So among the element of IR 4.0, other than big data, other than IoT, other than machine learning, things like that, is also virtual reality. Virtual reality. So virtual reality is a system whereby you will be either you will be in a cave that you watched on the cycling just now. There is a cave. A cave is a computer-aided virtual environment, or you can wear a head-mounted device, right? Like the in the virtual rowing video just now. Head-mounted device means those Oculus lah. When you wear that set on your head, then you will see videos or images like as if you are in that environment, right? So you can see here in the cycling, right? So he is cycling and he is moving, right? From our view, that when you can see that guy is cycling, right? From our view, it seems like those images, those from these screens, they are distorted. But from his view, we have adjusted, right? According to his height, according to his angle of eye, right? He is seeing as if he is in that environment, right? So when he cycles faster, the environment will move faster with his cycling. When he is turning, right, the environment will also turn. So he can ride on the virtual road that we have developed for the virtual environment, right? And in the rowing, so other than going to the lake or to the river to practice your rowing, so you can also have basically a virtual rowing simulator lah, right? So basically we have those rowing machines you can see in this indoor rowing. So it is a rowing machine, but they would not see anything. So they just pull those bars back and forth, and then the measurements of speed, the measurements of the strength of pull, right, will be recorded in a device lah. So what we did was we add a virtual environment so that when they do the activity, we still pull the same machine, right? But the rowing machine, we interface with sensors lah, and we integrate those sensors, those optical sensors, accelerometers, speed sensors into the software of virtual reality, right, in the cave or in the HMD. So what we did was, it's an innovative project using the knowledge of electronics, electronic sensors, things like Arduino, and then you have all those sensor modules. So you combine them together, identify the parameters, what should be measured, and then choose the best, choosing the best sensor for that measurement, for that machine, for that movement, for that sports, for that anything that is related to the sports activity. So so this would be you call it a new also a new era of sports training and sports assessment for the sports technology lah, right? So basically what I want to share with you is that when you do electronics, Chong, so all the participants in here are all electronics or from other courses too?
Most of them are from EE.
Electronics, right? So let me share with you lah. So because I'm also from EE electronics, so in electronics, what we learn about let's say in your first year you learn about circuit theories, and then you start to learn about C programming, alright. And then of course you will learn sensors, electronics systems, like that lah. So this is the knowledge that me as an EE apply to these sports technologies and sports engineering, right? So the virtual environment that you are seeing now is my team and I, we program that. See me as an EE, okay? Because I learned C programming, and then for my final year project, I also do programming for my tele robot, all right? So we are able to, other than electronic sensors, we are able to also program, do programs in systems, in computers. So we should be able to explore many things actually, as an EE. Pardon me, one moment. So just recently we also installed. So this cave we also install in some other facilities. So we did this design on our own lah. Right. So for rowing, we did together with Dr. Hadafi with grants from university lah. And actually, with virtual reality, it's also possible for let's say for sports scientists to assess things like decision making, right? Psychology, mental fitness, things like that. For example, in your virtual environment, you provide virtual challenges, right? So right now you see it's just cycling, right? So we have another set of virtual environment whereby when you are cycling, like for example, suddenly there's a lorry in front of you. So what would the cyclist do? Would you avoid that? Would you stop that? Would you hit somewhere else? Right? Would you let yourself hit by the lorry? Things like that lah. So those motions by the user in the cave on the bicycle. So we can while using the bicycle in the cave, for example, you can put sensors on the bodies too also lah. Right? You can put EEGs, right? You can put sensors to measure your brainwave. You can put sensors on the helmets, for example, so you can see he is tilting his head to avoid something that is appearing virtually, right? So on the shoulders, things like that, so you can observe. We even have one PhD student which graduated from our cave. So this is what she did. She is a lecturer in UiTM. So she's the one who did this, who designed those challenges to the cyclists. And then while you provide virtual challenges, then we put sensors on the bodies on the bicycle to see changes of pattern of changes. And then from this data we can give to the coaches to provide further analysis and assessment. Right. So in terms of psychology, Dr. Hadafi, how can virtual reality help to help athletes?
So when we use the HMD, so from that it will be have a decision making produced by the athlete, because when they use the item, they will be have in sport science we call it hand-eye coordination. So they need to improve their performance by improve their hand-eye coordination movement. Then beside that, we also can put EEG, right? For brain EEG, right, Dr. Najib?
Yes, boleh.
So we put in the brain, then we can detect the brain, what we call it, the brainwave. The brainwave from the athlete when they decide which movement they choose. So we will come out with the data, we'll come out with the numbers. We call it the quantitative data. So when we explain to the athlete, we explain with the numbers and quantitative data. So the athlete will understand why they need to do this technique, because from this technique, the data shows that their movement, their performance will be better. That's why for this 3D virtual reality cave is very good, and Dr. Najib and me now ongoing process to develop a virtual reality environment to set an athlete to put they inside the cave, and we give back feedback from the what we call it, penonton,
audience.
from the audience. So the audience will boo them, will say a bad word to them. Then we measure it by EEG. We want to know that the athlete have a mental toughness or not. That is the example. Okay, Dr. Najib?
Betul True So since Dr. Hadafi has mentioned about quantitative data kan, right? So basically sport science is or something like social science, Dr. Hadafi, betul tak?
Yes.
Which is usually social science or sport science. Usually the analysis come from qualitative data, right? Qualitative data.
Yes. More observation, interviews. Yes.
So, which means that sports science previously, without sports technology or sports engineering, right? Sports science is in terms of analysis would be mostly based on qualitative data, which Dr. Hadafi mentioned, based on interviews, observations, which is subjective right? We can have two observers, but the two observers might give a different perspective about what he observed. Right, so things like that is quite subjective on the evaluation or analysis. Okay, but when we introduce sport technology, sports engineering into the frame of sports science, right? So we are actually providing qualitative data to those coaches, to those sports scientists, so that on top of their qualitative data, they also have parameters for them to measure. They can see graph, right? They can see graphs of numbers and performance. But it is also important for me to mention that numbers only will not be the final decision making in sport, kan, Dr. Dafi, kan?
Yes,
so
we need to
numbers
discuss.
Is good.
We need to discuss with coach. Yeah. That's why in sports we call it art. It is sometimes we cannot interpret them.
The art of interpretation, panggil.
Yes.
So we as engineers, we cannot shot sendiri lah. We cannot shot sendiri buat alat kan, without actually agreement from coaches, agreement from athlete or sports scientists. So we need to align with them. Alright, so we cannot angan-angan sendiri sebagainya lah. So we need to communicate with them and have interaction with sports scientists and coaches for us to provide numerical data with our knowledge of engineering and sports technology. Okay, so next ada lagi slide ke?
Okay, Dr. Najib, I will be continue for 10 minutes for introduce them Sports Innovation Technology Center.
Alright, good. Please.
Okay. So I want to take this opportunity to introduce to all about our center, which is under Institute Human Centered Engineering in UTM. The center Sports Innovation and Technology Center, we is started on 2011 until now. So we actually under Institute of Human Centered Engineering, and we also have the other center from IJN, which is more to the cardiovascular research, from Magic Ed Center, more on media and game innovation research center, And the last one is Meditech, more to the Medical Device and Technology Center. And we from Sports Innovation and Technology Center, our research is more about sports technology and sports engineering. And what is our vision? Our vision is to develop new talents and new technology in sports. And we consist of 12 researchers from different department, different faculty, different school. We combine together and we work as a team. As example, there are 3 from sport science department, and Dr. Najib from biomedical, Dr. Makno from mechanical, Dr. I forgot the name. He from computer engineering faculty and so on. Okay, and what type of research we do? Basically, we divide into four part, which is athlete performance. We try to help talent identification, to improve athlete training, to do a biomechanic analysis, and psychology and sports science research. For equipment development, we develop a new technologies. Example, equipment design, material selection, equipment analysis and testing. And for creative innovation, such as sports technology, virtual reality, and novel research. And finally, it's more from a computer lecturers, data analytic. We do a dashboard, data mining, information system, and artificial intelligence. And we also basically have do a MOU with Institute Sukan Negara. For your information, anything about sports, about research in sports in Malaysia is under Institute Sukan Negara, which is UTM already do a MOU with Institute Sukan Negara. And continue, we also do collaboration with Iskandar Investment Berhad for Nusajaya EduCity, more about in virtual reality and sports science educations. Okay, this is our SITC Sports Innovation Technology expertise. As you can see, they are from different department and different school. As for me, Dr. Hadafi, I'm more into sports technology, sport rehab, and sports science. Dr. Najib more into biomedical instrumentation, biomedical optic. Dr. Norwina more on sports psychology, social science, and applied psychology. We work together to help our sports nation. Okay, this is our facility. So maybe one day you can do a courtesy visit to us. So we will show you. We have around 11 labs. Examples: biomechanic lab, sports injury lab, gym lab, sport testing lab, and so on. And this is our new research project. So we not only focusing on specific sports. We do a lot of research. Example: sports biomechanic, tactical applied computing, virtual reality, rehabilitation, sports instrumentation, talent identification, exercise science. And this is the example what we have do: visual signal device for deaf sports, intelligent drone monitoring system, and deep learning approach for badminton sports, muscle fiber classification using electromyography, EMG. And this is the example. They also use a deep learning, which is under artificial intelligence. And we also do engagement with community, such as webinar series. we collaborate with Muay Thai, we collaborate with Tinju, we also collaborate with Persatuan Shooting Johor or Persatuan Nerf Malaysia. That's all from us. So I think better we boleh buka question, open question to everybody kalau ada apa-apa soalan yang ingin ditanya.
So we pass back to Mr. Chong as the moderator. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. The fruitful sharing from Dr. Hadafi and Dr. Muhammad Najib. All right. So now we open the Q&A session to the floor. If you guys have any question to ask, you guys are welcome to ask in the chat box there, and perhaps Dr. Hadafi and Dr. Muhammad Najib, they will answer your questions.
Jangan malu kalau nak tanya dalam BM pun no problem, nak tanya dalam English pun no problem.
Assalamualaikum Dr. Hadafi.
Waalaikumsalam.
Ya, saya ada terlibat dengan, nama saya Rafiq. Saya terlibat dengan tim rowing UTM. Kalau saya nak buat talent ID untuk rowing sesi depan, boleh collaborate dengan Cik Dr. Hadafi ke? Macam mana?
Boleh. Tak ada masalah. Memang kami sangat mengalu-alukan kerjasama dengan mana-mana pihak. Dan memang itu adalah tugas kami untuk membantu performance sukan negara. Dr. Najib, ada apa-apa nak tambah? Boleh tambah?
Okeylah, betul lah. Nanti kalau ada collaboration ke apa, boleh contact Dr. Hadafi. So kita boleh arrange lah macam mana kita boleh gunakan sistem-sistem kita yang sedia ada ni untuk bantu especially yang macam Cik apa, Rafiq Rashid
Rafiq
mention about talent ID. Okay.
Okey, terima kasih Doktor.
There's a good question from Mr. Rafiq. Anyone else have some question to ask? All right, while waiting for some of you guys to prepare some question to ask, shall we move on to a photography session? So all of you, please turn on your camera so that we can have a photography session together. Okay. Okay, ready? Ready, I take the photo. Okay, when I count to 3, then I take the photo, all right? 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, freestyle? Give a freestyle. Any freestyle? Okay, freestyle, 1, 2, 3, smile. All right. Thank you. You guys may turn off your camera.
Awak tahun berapa? Chong Hong Yeo.
Oh, saya tahun 4.
Oh, tahun 4. Saya selalu cakap dalam kelas saya, kalau tak cukup 3 soalan kita tak boleh balik. Jadi baru akan ada soalan. Kalau tak memang semua akan diam je.
Ada lagi soalan doktor?
Okey, silakan.
Kalau yang virtual rowing yang macam doktor tunjuk tadi tu kan, possible ke nak buat tournament yang pakai VR macam yang doktor tunjuk tadi tu?
Ya, possible. Memang our target memang kita nak anjurkan virtual reality rowing competition between university.
Sekali jalan boleh berapa mesin ya doktor untuk virtual rowing competition tu? Ke dia kira masa?
Dr. Najib ingat tak Dr. Najib? Rasanya 4
Okay, dia punya setup ni, for this setup of virtual rowing, dia setup lah, dia punya setup dia. So the first thing you need a rowing machine lah, kan? So you need to have your own rowing machine at your site. So supposedly we are developing satu format di mana we can do virtual rowing from anywhere, right? From anywhere, daripada mana sahaja. So at your own venue or places, you have your own rowing machine. And then at least maybe if you don't have the HMD or the cave, you have a monitor in front of you lah, kan? Have a monitor at least lah, kan? At least. Then you will need also something like a PC lah, kan? PC. As of now lah, maybe in future we can turn that turn that software into maybe a mobile based phone punya, for example lah. Tapi it doesn't serve as a virtual rowing lah, kan? Sebab in virtual rowing you want to see the environment, kan? So where that ni you can see your opponents pass you, for example, kan? Tu yang create the excitement, kan? Jadi depend lah on the whether or not the participant ada machine rowing tu, dan juga of course kalau ada the interface melalui online, right? Depend on the networking jugalah, dia punya speed, internet speed lah.
Kita akan buat testing kepada pelajar-pelajar UTM dahulu sebelum kita launch antara universiti. So sebenarnya kita dah rancang sebelum PKP, tapi apabila PKP jadi kita terpaksa tunda. Sebab masa PKP pelajar tak ada kat dalam UTM, jadi kita tak boleh buat.
Okey, faham doktor. Terima kasih.
So nanti awak akan terlibat lah. Maksudnya awak juga akan terlibat. Memang kita akan buat mana competition dalaman di kalangan atlet rowing dalam UTM.
Okey, baik doktor. Terima kasih.
Baik.
Dr. Hadafi dan Dr. Najib, saya sini ada terima beberapa soalan dekat sini. Jadi saya terus sebutlah soalan tu. Okey?
Okey.
So, soalan pertama, adakah teknologi ini telah digunakan pada atlet negara kita?
Dr. Najib nak jawab ke atau macam mana?
Boleh juga.
Jawab dulu.
Kejap tu. Okey, sebenarnya kita saya dah I myself has been developing those technologies, devices since degree lah untuk bantu lecturer sport science. So until now lah kita dah lalu proses, lalu pengalaman. So we even have meetings with ISN, and then just recently kita ada ISN summit betul tak Dafi?
Betul.
Summit. So all experts, sport science experts, sport experts from all over Malaysia, UTM, UMP, manalah semua universiti ada, mostly ada yang buat sport science dan sport technology. So we engage with ISN, even we engage with managers of elite sports. So I would say this lah. So in sports bagi saya, yang pun saya dah nampak senario di sini ialah sports kita dia ada banyak peringkat, dia ada banyak peringkat. Contohnya peringkat paling awal peringkat sekolah lah, the level of school start from school. So you can provide systems, devices starting from school children. So actually we have developed some system for SEGA. If you know about SEGA, SEGA is apa Dr. Dafi, SEGA?
Ujian kecergasan untuk pelajar sekolah.
Alright. So we have some system for to automatically measure. So instead of cikgu tulis dalam kertas kan, catat itu. So we have those systems whereby cikgu-cikgu akan measure gunakan sensor-sensor dan masukkan dalam software ataupun app. Right, so we have done that. So that is level sekolah. And then bila dah identify siapa atlet sebagainya, dah akan saringkan. You narrow down, right, to who is good for what sports, for example. And then ada sekolah menengah, peringkat universiti kan, so peringkat negeri, peringkat negara sebagainya lah. Peringkat antarabangsa pun ada. Right, so if you are talking about whether we have applied sports technologies into ourselves lah, maksudnya direct kepada atlet negara, so just to share, it is not quite easy lah. Tak mudah kita nak melepasi ataupun kita nak sentuh atlet negara, sebab diorang sebelum diorang ada ada tournament Olimpik sebagainya, diorang ada kuarantin lah, macam kuarantin lah kan. They have to stay at that facility for some tempoh kan, for some months, and then we cannot latihan kan, latihan dia, training sebagainya, latihan pusat, latihan pusat, and then we cannot easily access them because we will be disturbing their program. They have their own program. So if we need to interface, first of all they will ask us, okay, have you tested this on atlet yang peringkat lebih bawah lagi, peringkat sekolah, barulah those intervention. Kalau telah disahkan pelbagai peringkat, barulah kita punya teknologi ini boleh bawa kepada atlet sukan negara. Macam itulah dia punya laluan. So it's not just about teknologi, it's about the system, dia punya peringkat tu sebagainya. Dr. Rafi boleh tambah lagi tu?
Kita akan terus berusaha untuk meyakinkan Institut Sukan Negara dan Majlis Sukan Negara untuk membenarkan mereka menggunakan alat teknologi device buatan Malaysia. The most problem in Malaysia is they like to buy from outside rather than use our device, our buatan Malaysia.
Itu challenges kan. For if you guys buy some from local products kan, you quality ketat kan, tested ketat kan, kerana dah tested quality pun kita ragu-ragu nak beli lagi kan. So challenges ni you have to go through lah, right? It's a normal challenge. Alright, Chong ada question lain
ada satu lagi. Okay, soalan yang satu lagi, adakah teknologi yang sedang buat ini dapat membantu orang kelainan upaya OKU untuk participate in Paralympic?
Okay, Dr. Najib.
Okay, sebenarnya kan, kalau kita lihat di luar negara, Paralympic luar negara, sebenarnya suasana teknologi untuk Paralympic memang sangat-sangat it's very encouraging, sangat-sangat memberangsangkan, sangat-sangat memberangsangkan di luar negara lah, right? Those Paralympics, they have many technologies. Sebab so when you are paralyzed or when you are kelainan upaya OKU, right? So your paralysis is different, right? From one individual from the other. Betul tak? Contohlah, saya mention pasal tangan saja tangan. So katakan amputasi tangan, saya amputasi tangan hilang jari saja. Saya amputasi tangan hilang wrist saja. Kan? Saya amputasi tangan separuh jalan. Setengah amputasi hilang sampai elbow. Right? So which means it's a different tau. Setengah tu kaki kanan, kaki kiri. So it's different for everyone. But what they have at their place is that they have those engineers, they have those innovative students from universities, from postgraduates, which are very enthusiastic to to develop these devices for Paralympics. So their culture over there is very semangat lah, very very encouraging. Right. So what we should do is we actually can do. We can do. So the thing is, we need to have that culture. We need to start that culture. Alright. So just to share with you, if you have a look at maybe you can look up in Facebook of University Technology Malaysia. So I think just a few weeks ago, you can see the news about my team and myself about we are developing a prosthetic hand lah, we're developing a robotic prosthetic hand. So what I did not mention in that news is that we are actually having a grant whereby we are developing a hand for archery. So for those amputees who lost their hand, we are developing a robotic arm for them so that they can do training in archery, right? So who knows? One day they might be one of the athlete for Paralympic, right? So maybe Dr. Hadafi want to add something on this.
For me, sure. Technology will help Paralympic athlete. So what we do now from Sports Innovation Technology Center, they already come to us and ask us to help them in terms of sports technology and also in terms of how to help their performance. So don't be worried, because we not only help a normal person, we also help everybody, especially from a Paralympic athletes. That's all.
All right, thank you Dr. Hadafi and Dr. Muhammad Najib. So ada soalan lagi tak? Jika tak ada, yes, Izani?
Saya ada soalan. Contoh kan doktor, kalau ikut pengalaman doktor, kalau injet ke apa, better kita guna macam kaedah tradisional atau teknologi moden untuk yang lebih efektif lah.
Okay, yang ni biar saya tolong jawab lah, sebab basically my PhD is sports rehabilitation. Jadi saya melakukan kajian ini semasa saya menyiapkan kajian PhD saya. Jadi sebenarnya dia tak ada dalam research bagi tahu modern more better from traditional more better from modern. Tak ada lagi yang kajian yang bagi tahu result macam tu. So for me is based on individual, which one is better for them, which one is will help them to enhance the rehabilitation process. Dia tak ada istilah sama ada guna alat moden lagi canggih ataupun guna tradisional lagi canggih. Semasa saya pernah lumpuh, saya di one of radial nerve palsy patient, di mana tangan saya ni saya pernah lumpuh, tak boleh bergerak, dan saya menggunakan semua jenis rawatan yang ada. Saya pergi jumpa bomoh, saya pergi mandi bunga, saya pergi guna rawatan moden, saya pergi buat aquapuncture, saya buat dry needling, saya macam-macam saya cuba. Dan semasa dan jawapan yang saya jumpa bagaimana saya berjaya pulih tangan saya daripada lumpuh, jawapan saya adalah saya keep on going do exercise. For me, exercise is the powerful medicine. Because apabila kita exercise, saya paksa. Saya guna tangan ni, saya letak kat sini, saya paksa dia exercise. Walaupun tangan sebelah saya tak boleh gerak, saya paksa. Jadi jawapan saya lebih kepada exercise lah. Bila kita exercise, baru kita boleh, kita spark kita panggil nerve tu. Kita spark nerve tu untuk kembali hidup normal semula. Jadi saya pernah lumpuh, dan pada saya tak ada istilah moden lebih baik daripada tradisional lebih baik daripada moden. Just which one is better for you. Itu jawapan saya. Dr. Najib nak tambah? Dr. Najib? Tak dengar, suara tak dengar.
Okay, sorry. Dr. Hadafi memang saya respect lah, very determined. Walaupun lumpuh masih boleh ada determination. Tapi in term of technology lah, kalau nak tengok kalau melibatkan, let's say for example, sebab dia melibatkan saraf Dr. Hadafi
Ya.
So antara teknologi yang digunakan untuk rehab, contohnya macam TENS. So TENS is transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulating device, TENS. So alatnya dari segi elektronik adalah satu alat, it is battery powered, kan, battery powered. Dia ada litar transformer kecil whereby dia akan convert, dia macam boost converter lah, boost converter, di mana dia convert low voltage kepada high voltage. Right? Tujuan dia bila kita bagi high voltage kat kawasan nerve tangan tu, right, dia akan activate kan laluan-laluan nerve tu menggunakan electricity lah, guna current sebagainya. Microcurrent. So in terms of teknologi, benda tu boleh bantu jugalah. Tapi macam Dr. Rafi cakap lah, sebenarnya teknologi saja tak boleh. Teknologi sahaja tak akan kita boleh banggakan, boleh menyelesaikan semua masalah. So kita mestilah bersifat holistik. Tapi dalam pada kita bersifat holistik, kita pun tak boleh menolak teknologi, kan? So kita bersifat inklusif. Right? Inklusif, kita yang mana ada facility, tak perlu kita nak tolak sana tolak sini, kan? Kita meraihkan kesemuanya sekali. Macam tu.
Setuju. Kenapa Izani awak tanya soalan tu? Based on your experience, kenapa? Awak ada sakit apa-apa ke? Izani tak dengar suara.
Sebab saya pernah cedera dekat ankle.
Okey, jadi kenapa awak tanya soalan macam tu?
Kadang-kadang dia masih rasa lagi lah.
Oh, okey. Baik.
Sebab sebelum saya main bola.
Okey, salah satu saya dahulu saya ada seorang kawan, kawan saya pelajar sport science, dia selalu ankle injuries. Lepas lepas training ankle injuries, lepas training ankle injuries. Kita tak dapat jawapan kenapa boleh jadi macam tu selalu, sedangkan maksudnya pelik lah. Jadi dia telah pergi jumpa spesialis lakukan MRI kepada ankle dia, didapati dekat ankle dia ada serpihan tulang, di mana dekat tulang ankle dia ada yang dah pecah, serpis. Jadi serpihan tulang itulah yang menyebabkan ankle dia selalu bengkak, ankle dia selalu cedera. Itu antara rare analisis yang kita jumpa lah. Jadi selepas dia operate, dia buang serpihan tulang tu, barulah lepas main dia tak bengkak, lepas main dia tak cedera ankle. Jadi kita terlampau mana kita kena tengok betul-betul kenapa awak selalu ankle injuries. Benda tu kita kena tengok dari pelbagai sudut. Jadi yang tadi saya bagi tahu case study yang pelik lah. Yang pelik rupa-rupanya sebab memang ada serpihan tulang dekat sekitar ankle dia selalu bengkak. Jadi mengganggu dia dalam latihan dan training bola sepak. Dia adalah bekas kapten bola sepak UTM. Macam itulah. So nanti mungkin awak boleh jumpa saya personal lah kalau awak nak saya tolong ke apa ke. Okay?
Baik, Doktor.
Okay.
Terima kasih, Doktor.
Chong Hong Yao. Ngam 4:30.
Okay, so tak ada soalan kan?
Ya.
Memang terima kasih Dr. Hadafi dan Dr. Muhammad Najib untuk sharing mereka. Saya harap semua participants memang dapat ilmu lah tertentu tentang sport science. Alright, so that's all for today lah. Okay, so thank you for joining. Alright, then you guys may leave this webinar. Alright, thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody.
Thank you, terima kasih semua.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay, welcome.